Excuse me, I was muted. Good evening and thank you for joining us. You would think after 2.5 years of Zoom that I would remember to unclick mute, but sometimes old habits die hard. My name is Dr. Brian Dozer. I am the superintendent of Coastline RLP. I'd like to welcome everyone who is joining us. It looks like we have really fantastic turnout tonight, and I just want to take a real quick moment to welcome everyone and to just talk really quickly about Coastline RLP and who we are. So for those of you who are not familiar, we are an RLP, which what that means is we teach career education classes at 5 school districts across Orange County: in Huntington Beach Union High School District, Irvine Unified School District, Newport Mesa Unified School District, Saddleback Valley Unified School District, and Tustin Unified School Districts. We teach in 11 of the 15 state pathways across those 5 school districts. We do in-bell and we also do after-bell classes. We're here tonight primarily to present to you some information about how you can discuss what you're learning in our career education classes in your college application. But one of the things that we like to say is no matter what the post-secondary path is for our students, we offer classes that can help them achieve their goals, whether you're looking to go straight into the workforce, go to a community college, then onto a 4-year, or go straight into a 4-year like my daughter did a few years ago. So with that, what I would like to do is now turn it over to Felicia. Are you up next?
I'm up next.
Okay, to Felicia, and I will turn off my camera and get out of your way. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Brian. This webinar is really a passion project of mine after spending last year as a career specialist for Coastline RLP and also serving as an external admissions reader for UCI. I read more than 1,000 applications, so that's 4,000 personal insight questions. And during that time, I saw a lot of missed opportunities where either the student looked like they had some pretty interesting experiences, but didn't write about them in their essays, or they simply didn't take advantage of the opportunities at their high school, so they didn't come across as a competitive applicant. So tonight we want to address some of those issues and help you stand out in your college applications. So we all know getting into college is becoming more competitive every year. UCLA had an admission rate of 8.6% last year. That's the first time we've seen a UC or any state university in the nation drop into single-digit admission rates. In fact, the admission rate into UCLA's nursing program was just 1%. That's more competitive than trying to get into Harvard or Stanford. So what can you do? Well, one of the ways to stand out in your college applications is to make sure you are exploring your career options and learning some real-world hands-on skills. These experiences will give you in-depth examples to talk about in your college admissions essays and show you're ready to tackle the rigor of college coursework. Now, when I was putting together this webinar, I came across the picture of the student on your screen, and it reminded me exactly of the look my daughter would give me when I brought up college applications, that sort of teenage death stare, which says, please leave me alone. Now, family unity during the college admissions process is an entirely different webinar, but I do hope whether you're a parent or a student with us tonight, that you leave with just a little better understanding of the process and some tools to make you more confident as you start your college search. So to help me with the webinar this evening, I also have 3 guests, and I really want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedule during this busy admission season. Hassan Asrar he is the work-based learning and outreach specialist for Coastline, and he's going to join us to talk about the RLP classes that are available to everyone here tonight, no matter what school district you are from. And then after we show you some real college admissions essays, we're going to go straight to the source and talk with some college admissions officers. Evelise Colon will be joining us from Stony Brook University in New York. Stony Brook is the #1 ranked college in the State University of New York system, or SUNY for short, which is equivalent to our UC-CSU system. We'll talk about some of Stony Brook's programs, like their direct admit medical and dental programs. And then from Baltimore, Maryland, Emily Keith is here to talk about admissions at Johns Hopkins University. JHU is currently ranked number 7 in the nation on the US News and World Report list of national universities. Johns Hopkins has a direct admit program into a Master's of Public Health, and they also have a wonderful list of essays that worked on their college website. And I also want to give a shout out to Rachel Krieger from Coastline, who's working behind the scenes for us this evening to help out monitoring the Q&A. So speaking of Q&A, the chat is closed, but you can go ahead and put your questions into the Q&A, and throughout the webinar, we'll try to answer them. But before we get to our webinar content and our panelists, let's take a look at where all of you are from. I'm going to put up a poll and you can go ahead. We'll take a couple moments to see where everybody's from. See who's the winner. And I know, as Brian mentioned, Coastline ROP serves Saddleback Valley, Irvine Unified, Newport Mesa, Huntington Beach, and Tustin Unified school districts. And all of these school districts have access to the after-school classes that are held at our different locations throughout Orange County. So it looks like Irvine is our leader tonight. Thanks to all of you for joining us, and then Tustin coming in a close second. So we're going to leave this up. People will be able to get to it as they come in if they haven't answered it already. Okay, so first, I think we missed a slide. There we go. Here's a quick overview of what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to start with a general look at the admissions and application process to see why college essays are so important in showcasing your passions and personality. Then Hassan Asrar will join us to explain what ROP offers. What are some of these opportunities we're talking about in the essays, and how can you take advantage of these classes? Then we'll move on to my favorite section, showing you some examples of essays that worked for ROP students. And finally, we'll talk with our admissions reps about what they want to see in your college applications. And hopefully at the end, have some time for Q&A from you, our listeners. So first, what goes into a college application? Admission readers are going to look first at your transcript. What classes did you take? How rigorous were those classes? And how did you perform relative to your peers in the same school? The next element is test scores. Many schools are now test optional, and for the UCs and the CSUs, they won't look at your test scores right now because they're test blind. And we'll look at the rationale behind that more in the next slide. Then admission readers will look at your list of activities. What did you do in high school? Were you an active member of your school community? Did you join clubs, play sports, or star in the school play? Then for the schools that require them, they'll read about you in your letters of recommendation from your teachers or counselors. And of course, the dreaded college essays, which we hope to demystify as we move through the webinar this evening. So I want to take just a moment here to look at the shift away from standardized testing and why this affects your essays. So pre-COVID, most major universities required the SAT or ACT, and this was like a rite of passage for every college-going applicant. Then during COVID, students just didn't have access to testing sites. And at the same time, this coincided with the test optional movement that showed students from disadvantaged backgrounds didn't perform as well on standardized testing. So that led the UCs to deciding to go test blind, and the vast majority of other colleges becoming test optional, meaning you can choose whether you want to submit your scores or not. So without testing scores, admission readers look at all the other elements of your application more thoroughly, and essays are one of the components that are now receiving more attention than they used to. The majority of colleges use holistic review, which means they're not just looking at the numbers, they want to know how all the different parts of your application fit together. Admission readers are going to look to see how you spent your time during high school, if you're ready to pursue your chosen major, and what you learned from both the challenges and the opportunities that you faced. So if you are an applicant, why do you want to spend time crafting a solid admissions essay? Well, for one, essays are the only element in the application you have total control over. You can't change your grades anymore, and you have no idea what that teacher is going to write in your letter of recommendation. But you do control the narrative of your essay, and that's why it's so important. Additionally, within your application, essays are also the best place to show admission readers, hey, I'm prepared for this major, whether it's biology or criminology. Essays allow you to show examples of why you are excited to study in your chosen field. And finally, essays can show your unique personality traits, whether you are enterprising, enthusiastic, or empathetic. What else can they show? Well, they can show intellectual curiosity, that you're excited to learn. They can show perseverance and determination if you overcame a particular challenge. For those with a strong volunteering background, you can show contribution in your community and the initiative to start new projects. And again, that readiness for your chosen major. How do you let schools know you're ready to be a shark researcher or a skyscraper architect? Or what about that lucky videographer who's going to get a film Tom Cruise becoming the first civilian to do a spacewalk outside on the International Space Station? Well, ROP and CT experiences can show those qualities. Now, just a quick look at the type of essay questions you might be writing. First, there's the common application personal statement. This is the essay most people are familiar with, and it's a great way to show your personality traits and what you're passionate about. Then if you're applying to a UC school, you'll write the personal insight questions, which are much more straightforward. These questions ask about your academic interests, your leadership ability, or what you've done to make your community a better place. And then there are the supplemental essays, which may ask you, how did you choose your major? Or describe an activity that was meaningful to you. And my personal favorite, what brings you joy? So if you want to tell the world why pumpkin spice lattes are the best ever, you might just have that chance. So before we show you some actual essays that ROP students have written, I want to turn it over to Hassan Esrar to tell us a little bit more about the ROP classes and opportunities. Hassan, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Hassan. It's a pleasure to be here tonight with all of you. Let's jump into career technical education courses that are offered to you through Coastline ROP. So simply put, we're a public institution education system delivering career education classes. We partner with the 5 Orange County school districts, like Dr. Dozer was saying, and we provide in-bell and after-bell courses in 11 of the 15 industry sectors. So just to clarify and reiterate, after-bell means after a student's normal bell schedule. When you take a career technical education class through Coastline ROP, you have the opportunity to move along what we call the work-based learning continuum. Students moving along this continuum gain life skills and experience as they progress from learning about work and learning through and for the work that will connect their college, career, and community goals. During this developmental process, it's important to stay proactive in the pursuit of career knowledge so you can make informed decisions after you graduate. Never shy away from asking those questions. Try as many things possible during your high school career. I want to emphasize that these programs are completely free for students, supply high school graduation credit, and most courses offer the UC and Cal State approved elective G status. These ROP courses are located on high school campuses and could take place anywhere from 1 to 4 times per week. These courses promote a growth mindset for students and expose them to industry-specific skills. Many of our programs provide internships that lead to industry certification, which prepares students for a career path. The learning experiences gained throughout these programs would be fantastic content to write about during your college essays. Some of our students' experiences are so impactful in our programs that some of them win monetary awards. Okay, so here we go. Here are our CTE courses in the health science and medical technology sector. The Medical Careers in Health Systems is a year-long course that informs students about physician, nursing, and medical assisting roles. This class better prepares students for our semester-based medical nursing careers internship and certified nursing assistant programs. Medical Nursing Careers Internship is a course for students who are curious about the various nursing levels. They also get hands-on at our partnering internship site, Hoag Hospital. Our CNA course is for students who want to take the CNA state board exam right after they're done with our program. Finally, we offer a completely virtual course, Medical Careers and Innovations, Research and Entrepreneurship, which focuses heavily on student collaboration in order to solve real-world problems encountered by industry professionals. Imagine all the work-based knowledge you'll be able to speak to at the conclusion of those programs. Train to become an emergency medical technician by preparing for the state certification exam for this program. This career pathway consists of 2 courses, EMR, which is Emergency Medical Response, semester long, and EMT, which is Emergency Medical Technician, which is year long. EMR must be taken before EMT. During the Emergency Medical Response courses, students earn their basic life support and learn first responder skills that not only will help them in the EMT course, but to save a life. Now, at the conclusion of the EMT course, students will be 100% prepared to take the actual examination course. This is because students have completed 24 hours of ambulance ride-alongs working with companies like Lynch, Falk, Premier, and Lifeline Ambulance. Imagine owning those experiences and being able to reflect on a challenging moment or a crisis situation. Finally, we have a fire science course that prepares students for a career as a firefighter, where students suit up, role play dangerous scenarios, and learn the physical and mental demands of firefighting. Great content for essays. And we got more medicine for you. We have internship courses in the medical tech sector, a lot of them. During our year-long pharmacy technician internship class, students prepare for a career to work behind the counter at a local pharmacy. At the beginning of the class, students prepare for workplace expectations and practice the skills they will be performing. Then, come spring, students report to their internship site instead of class. Students work with local pharmacists and learn the necessary skills to become a certified pharmacy technician. In our sports medicine internship course, this class exposes students to the duties of a physical therapist, athletic trainers, and occupational therapy aides. Students will expand and refine their skills and knowledge in the prevention, care, and rehabilitation of injuries, as well as fitness and athletic preparation in a clinical setting. Okay, let's talk teeth real quick. Our dental pathway enlightens students on the variety of career opportunities in the dental field. In the front office course, students learn about tooth charting, insurance handling, patient scheduling, and learning about different functions happening in the back part of the office. When students enroll in the back office internship course, this is where students get to use radiology equipment, observe tooth extractions, and assist practitioners with a variety of dental assistant related duties. Students earn a radiology certificate upon successful completion of this course. As I'm speaking about all these awesome opportunities, think about how these experiences will be great topics to highlight during your college essays. These are 2 of our most popular courses. Enroll in these courses if you want to learn more about becoming a lawyer, correctional officer, police detective, or records officer. Our Administration of Justice course delivers an overview of the American criminal justice system, and our crime scene investigation course gives students a hands-on experience in the skills and knowledge required to be a forensic crime scene investigator working in law enforcement. These classes include mock trials and get you to think critically when it comes to making decisions that affect the lives of others. Students pictured on this slide attended a field trip to Irvine Police Department on one of their field trip days. Okay, let's talk about safety first. Students engaging in the hospitality and tourism sector begin with learning about safety, sanitation, and earning your food handler certification in all of our culinary arts and baking and pastries classes. From there, you will learn how to prepare course-like dishes in the culinary arts and how to prepare beautiful desserts in the baking and pastry fundamentals. Then, once you've gained some skill and experience, take the culinary arts internship class and work with our business partners to get a real life experience working in a restaurant. We're always looking for new internship partners to build relationships with. Now, when you look at this slide, there's a lot more career technical education courses. There's such an array of CTE courses available that sometimes it's hard to keep track of everything being offered. From construction pathways to careers in artificial intelligence, the CTE sector is very broad. My suggestion is to ask as many questions and keep your conversations going. For example, after this webinar, how can you continue your personal narrative? How will you perform your own research to educate yourself on careers? Who would be some trusted adults to help align your interests with a possible career? All things you want to ask yourself when making important decisions. Finally, I'll wrap up my portion with a snip from Coastline ROP's labor market study. This story tells the data. The story this data tells is that career technical education provides a valuable high school experience for all students. Those who choose to take ROP and CTE classes are motivated to graduate because they're in pursuit of something that is important and of interest to them. ROP CTE students also earn more money because the demand for skilled workers is on the rise and companies have employees that are not being replaced due to a lack of skilled workers. Through internship and other work-based learning opportunities, students can reflect on how these awesome experiences, on how awesome these experiences were, or how they were nothing like they thought it would be. Either way, excellent content for your college essays. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it back over to Felicia so she can connect the ROP CTE to your college essays. Thank you.
Thanks for telling us about those classes, Hassan. I also want to point out again that these classes are free for all high school students. I have a friend whose daughter is pre-med at Brown, and they paid $1,600 for their daughter to become EMT certified through a private company after she was in college. She's currently volunteering with Brown's emergency medical services to build up some experience for when she applies to med schools. So it's just important to remember these ROP classes you can take in high school for free can also be a huge cost saver. So heading back into that connection with college essays, why does this matter so much? Well, we want to make sure your essays really tell your unique story. What's so special about you? We want your essays to show your passion and that you've had the chance to explore some career options. And of course, we want your essays to show your skills. What type of practical knowledge and skills do you already have that will help you be a successful student? So we asked students who took ROP classes last year to share their college admissions essays with us. The samples we're going to look at tonight will show you how they used their essays to successfully demonstrate that they were ready for their chosen major, that they had the personality traits and characteristics that will allow them to succeed no matter what obstacles or challenges are placed in front of them, and that they've made connections between the academic subjects that they've been learning in school and their hands-on career experiences. The first essay we're going to look at tonight is from Maylene, who's currently a freshman at UCI. She is a great example of a student who really did a lot of career exploration when she was in high school. She was answering a UC prompt that asks, describe how you have taken advantage of a significant educational opportunity. So she starts her essay by saying, 2 years ago, I decided to take my first Coastline ROP class. The class was called ROP Baking and Pastry, and this changed my life. Before this baking and pastry class, the best dessert I knew how to make was confetti cupcakes out of a box. But now I can make almost any cupcake or pie from scratch. Then she continues in the essay that she found out from her career specialist at school that there were also medical classes she could take. So she decided to explore those as well. She says, I registered for a class called Medical Careers in Health Sciences, and I took an emergency medical responder course called EMR. Those courses changed my life because in both courses, I got CPR certified. So now I can save anyone who suddenly falls into cardiac arrest. And knowing I have the potential to save a life with my hands is literally a superpower I am grateful to have acquired. She even continues on in her essay to talk about an additional course she took called MIRE, which is short for Medical Innovation, Research, and Entrepreneurship. So by the time I finished reading Maylene's essay, I wanted to give her some kind of an award. I mean, I'm not sure if there's a record for the number of ROP classes taken during high school, but 5 certainly has to be on the high end. If I'm an admission reader, I know Maylene is not sitting around playing video games after school. She is out there taking advantage of all the different opportunities that are available to her to explore her career options. The pathway diagram shows Maylene started with the culinary courses, but then switched tracks to the medical classes, taking a deeper dive into those offerings. So you don't have to stick with just one pathway. However, if you're considering a profession in the healthcare industry, whether it's becoming a nurse, a doctor, dentist, or pharmacist, it really helps to make sure you know you're positive about that career path before you start med school. This is even more important if you're looking at any of the direct admit medical school programs, because colleges want to know that you know what you're getting into. Can you work with sick or injured patients? Can you handle the sight of blood? So while you're taking these ROP classes, you're also able to check out your career options. And at the same time, you're building these hands-on practical skills that you can keep on using as you progress in your career. Our next essay comes from Lauren, who's a first-year student at San Diego State University. She was the only girl in her auto shop class all 3 years in high school. And this is actually my favorite essay of all of the ones I'm sharing with you tonight, because it shows so much vulnerability and some unexpected personality traits that she developed in the process. I'm certain Lauren didn't enroll in this class thinking, hey, I want to develop really strong character traits by taking this class, but that's what happened. In her first quote here, she says, I enjoyed the content of the class. However, the environment was not always friendly. Being the only girl in a male-dominated class was very intimidating and often uncomfortable. I would receive unsettling looks and inappropriate comments or jokes. But you know what? She didn't quit after that first year. She came back to take year 2 and 3 of the automotive tech class, which shows you she's willing to go out of her comfort zone and stick with something she started. By the end of her essay, she writes, by constantly bettering myself in the shop, I allowed myself to take advantage of the tools and information that was given to me. As a result, I became one of the top technicians in the class, and needing to prove myself was no longer necessary. So why, as an admission reader, would I like this essay? Well, first, it passes what I like to call the roommate test. This is a person that I want to be my friend. Not only does she know how to fix a flat tire and change my oil, but she comes across as the type of person who will be there for you if you're going through a rough time. I know she's going to succeed in college because she's willing to go out of her comfort zone and try new things, and she'll be able to thrive in uncomfortable situations. And lastly, I know she can relate to a diverse group of individuals and learn to work with them confidently as a team. The diagram here shows the 3 auto classes Lauren took, and if students are interested, there's also an additional class in the pathway that includes an internship at an actual auto repair shop. Next, we're going to take a look at this essay from a first-year student at Chapman. This is a supplemental essay prompt. So those are the prompts that I talked about earlier in the webinar from universities that may ask them in their application if they're trying to learn something specific about you. This student took both baking and pastry and the culinary arts ROP classes and became really fascinated by the connection between what she was learning in her academic classes at school and what she was learning in her culinary arts class. She says, I found myself using math to have a recipe and researching boiling sugar to find out it's all about chemistry. My instructor would explain the reason why yeast becomes alive with warm water and how butter makes a cookie crunchy. If I'm an admission reader, that just makes me hungry. I want to eat that cookie. The student finishes by writing, throughout my college years, I hope to continue finding and exploring these connections between the world of culinary and science, especially if it means I get some delicious croissants out of it. So what does this essay tell us about the student? This essay shows a lot of intellectual curiosity, which is a wonderful quality to show admission readers. The student is making these connections about the food they are baking with the content they're learning in chemistry class at school. So it's really this aha moment that there's this connection between culinary and chemistry. We see this fascination with STEM subjects and connecting them to everyday experiences at home. So this is one of the great things about ROB classes. While you're taking your regular core classes at school, there are these opportunities that you can take what you're learning at school and make it come alive. So demonstrating you can integrate what you're learning across multiple platforms really shows you're using those critical thinking skills that are so necessary for college. So our last essay here comes to us from a first-year nursing major at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And she picked the newest edition of the prompt choices on the Common Application, the gratitude prompt. And it asks, reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? This is a pretty tricky prompt simply because many students write all about the person they're grateful for, but don't include enough information about themselves and how they grew from the interaction with that person. However, this UW student did a wonderful job of including both of those elements. So just a little bit of background information on this essay. The student was playing in a soccer tournament in Las Vegas, and they ended up with a very serious injury. So her gratitude is for one of the emergency medical responders that arrived at the scene, and then how that interaction with the paramedic inspired her to start exploring careers in the healthcare field. She writes, being prioritized at that moment when I needed someone most allowed me to realize that the paramedic took his job seriously and that the connections with complete strangers can be life-changing. I envied his intelligence and ability to make me feel secure. This encounter helped me realize my interest in the medical field. So what does this essay show us? First, it shows us the student is thankful for the people around them, just even regular people who are just doing their job. We know she's observant and that she's going to care about the feelings of others. The essay also tells us about this singular moment with her soccer injury that sparked career exploration. She decided to take the emergency medical responder class, and then she moved on to the certified nurse assistant class. Now, the CNA class is intense. It requires meeting twice a week for 4 hours at a time after school. And then you still need to sit for the certification exam. So this shows a lot of dedication. And it shows that as someone who wants to go into nursing, she already knows the challenges. She's already been working with patients and has enough hands-on experience to really decide this is her passion and it's what she wants to pursue as her career. So in addition to the CTE pathway, this particular student utilized, there are also, of course, the academic courses at your school like AP Biology that you can take to deepen your knowledge in specific subject areas, and that can get you a head start on some of that college coursework. So now that we have looked at some essays, we're going to invite our admissions reps to join us. So let's have Evelise Cologne from Stony Brook and Emily Keith from Johns Hopkins join us. And I am going to stop sharing my screen so we can see everybody a little bit better, and we will go through some questions, and then we'll be able to look at your questions as well. So first of all, for both of you, tell me briefly about your college, and then if you could give one piece of advice about admissions essays, what would it be?
I can start. So hi everyone, I'm Emily. I'm an admissions officer at Johns Hopkins. And a little bit about Johns Hopkins. So we're located in Baltimore, Maryland, and we have a foundation in research and really have this idea of, encouraging students to discover and think of new things and really be willing to explore. And so a couple of our most popular majors at Hopkins are biomedical engineering, public health. Our students do molecular cellular biology. We also have a lot of students doing our writing seminars program, which focuses on creative writing. And then I think if in terms of advice, the best piece that I always give students is I always encourage students to be really authentic through their essays, right? Make sure you're thinking about representing who you are and doing that authentically rather than trying to think about, what do we want to hear? What do we want to see on the other side, right? It's we want to get to know you. So that's really what we think about. And that's something I always encourage students to do is to really be authentic when you're thinking about your essays and really be true to yourself when you're writing them.
Yeah, so I think Felicia already put Stony Brook pretty well. We are the #1 public in New York. We're about an hour east on Long Island, right smack in the middle of Long Island. We are a massive engineering school. We have all the engineering, civil, mechanical, electrical, biomedical. There's so many engineering, I think I lost count one day. We also have, business. We have a dual enrollment BSMD program, School of Business, School of Journalism. It's an expansive list of programs. It's a great school to go to. It's a great research institution. A lot of our undergrads are heavily involved in research and internships and are very supportive in all of their endeavors, and we love them for it. We love all their pursuits, and we just love that they have so many varied pursuits, and we want them to do it. We want them to do it well. As long as they're happy doing it, we're happy to have them doing it. And like Emily said, authenticity is key. Don't try and be Emily Bronte when you're trying to write your papers. Don't try and be Walt Whitman, because it's not going to come off right. We want to see who you are in the most authentic way possible, and ask for help. Write the papers and ask for help in terms of like, does this make sense? Ask your teachers that are going to help you frame it and phrase it in a way that makes sense, but it's still very much your voice that's putting that on paper, so that it comes out in the most authentic but still understandable way possible.
Great, thank you. So what would be the most common mistakes that you see people making when you're reading the essays? Go ahead, Emily. We'll go or
yeah, I can go. That's fine. So I think one of the things is definitely like, when you think about the essays, right? Like obviously we want you to write well and proofread them, but I think that sometimes students get really caught up in telling a story and kind of forget that it's about them. And so that's something that I always encourage students, right? Like make sure you're thinking about this balance between showing and telling, right? You want to tell a story, but most importantly, you want to showcase something about yourself, maybe thinking about different qualities, different values, something that you want us to learn about. And so with that, when it comes to the essay, sometimes students get really caught up in telling that story about that soccer game. And we've learned every play of the soccer game, right? And then we get to the end and we're like, wait, we don't know anything about you. So that's what I would say is definitely something to think about as you're writing those essays, is kind of finding that balance, right? Between, yes, telling us about the soccer game, but also telling us about what you learned or what was important to you or how that shaped you. And what does that do to really, move you forward? How is that going to really, showcase something about you that we're going to learn about?
Yeah, also the same thing in terms of like regurgitating everything that they've done in terms of like, well, I've done this AP and I've done that AP and I was part of this club and I was part of that club and I did this things and I did that thing. Oh, great. That's awesome. We can read all of that. That's what your transcript and that's what your list of volunteer and your extracurriculars are for. Why does that matter? That's where the rest of the essay comes in. Okay, I did this extracurricular activity because I was passionate about, that activity. I did this I was part of this program through Coastline because I was very curious about it. And it just sort of kind of solidified the fact that that's what I really, really wanted to do. I saw something and I was like, ooh, what's that about? And I tried it out and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I did every other class that was involved in that field. And that really means that I really, really want to go into culinary arts. And that's why I'm applying to this college for the culinary arts. Like that's where you sort of kind of start to tie in all of these other extracurriculars. That's where you start to tie in all of the volunteer opportunities to sort of kind of flesh out the rest of the application. Don't just regurgitate your transcript and your volunteer opportunities, because that's essentially a CV. That's what a college a cover letter is for the rest of us that are applying for jobs. Like that's what that's for. That's not what we're looking at as admissions counselors. We want to see why that matters to you in your admissions essay. So yeah, I think that's definitely one thing that, you know, that's sort of kind of a bit of a hang up, to saying like, oh, well, I did all these things. Cool, that's awesome. We love it. We love to see it, but we want to know why that matters.
Thank you. Yeah, that's wonderful advice. Well, what about when you start the essay process? I've heard some people say, don't read anyone else's college essay like ever, because you don't want to mimic their story. This is your unique story. You know, you need to make it authentic. And then there's other people that are like, oh, read this so you have an idea. Like it's not an English essay. It's not the 5-paragraph, you know, thing. So what do? Do you read them, not read them? Evelisa, I'll let you go first on this one.
I'd say don't read it. Don't start there. I would say read the essays if you really have no idea where to start, you know. And I mean, like, right. And if you have a serious case of writer's block, and I've been writing for years, and I've literally looked at the paper and I'm like, there's nothing coming out. I don't know what to do. And I've been writing for 15 years. The pen, it's not moving. I don't know what's going on. That's when you sort of kind of look to other essays for inspiration, and look really more towards your counselors first, because there's books and materials out there that have specific essays that are designed to like point out admissions essays for specific content to give you ideas, not just the essays flat, because now you're going to start mimicking the essays. There's a book that I love. It's called Admissions Essays That Made a Difference. I think it's by the Princeton Review. That book is oriented and designed to show specific parts of the essay to show you like this essay worked and here's why. That helps, because you're not mimicking the essay, you're mimicking the structure. You're using the ideas that are put in the essay, but now you're putting in your own authenticity. You're just using the frame. That's very different, as opposed to just saying, that's different from me just saying like, hey, use my essay and then just put your name on top. One, that's plagiarism. We're not going to do that. Two, and it's inauthentic, because my story is very different from yours, and that's going to come off very different once you get to college, and the A does not correlate with B. So that's very much if you really have no idea where to start, always start with a counselor, because they're going to be the ones that are going to help you anyway on where to start. And start with materials that are going to help you figure out the frame and the structure, because you can then always add your own ideas after that. And ultimately, just sit and start writing gibberish. You can really literally just start writing like lyrics from a song that's stuck in your head. You can start writing like stuff that's like stuck from like TikTok. You can start writing stuff from like movies that's stuck in your head. And from there is when like you're going to start getting the stuff to flow that's going to come from like essay ideas and things that matter to you. And then that's when you start to edit. And then you take that material and you take that to a teacher that then helps you then restructure it into an admission essay that matters and is authentic and will show it to college students. That's literally writing an essay 101 for like everything. That's how I started my thesis. For anybody that's curious.
Emily, what about you?
Yeah, so I think that, you know, it definitely depends. But I think that you can definitely take a look at some other essays. But you have to make sure they were thinking about it in you know, a certain way, right? So we have like our Essays That Worked page online, which gives some examples every year of some essays that have worked from students who are current students at Hopkins. And the reason we put this up there, right, is not to be like, okay, here is, you know, something that you should do, and you should write an essay exactly like this, right? It's actually to showcase that there are a lot of different ways you can make an essay work for you, right? There's a lot of different topics, a lot of different ways you can write it. And it kind of just showcases some of those examples of like, okay, here's a student that made something really work by writing about, you know, chemistry, and here's someone that wrote about, sports, and here's someone that wrote about something else, and it kind of showcases those different varieties. And so I think that's something to keep in mind when you're taking a look at those essays, if you are going to look at some. And I think it is also right thinking about what you're going to get out of that. Going to look at other essays isn't necessarily a way to get those ideas for yourself. You kind of have to brainstorm and kind of go through different exercises, right? Maybe you write down different adjectives you want to showcase about yourself, different stories that you want to take a look at, and kind of thinking about these different pieces. And maybe you write a little bit and get some help from other other people to kind of bounce ideas off of. But don't necessarily go looking at those essays and being like, okay, I'm looking for an essay on this, so I'm going to write it exactly like that. It worked for that student, but thinking about your own story and your own experience, how can you make your essay work for you? And how can you make it showcase those things and really get a sense of, convey that information that you're looking for? So there are those essays out there. And if you want to take a look, that's kind of what they're there for, is to showcase that variety and showcase some examples of some ways that students have been able to take different pieces about themselves and really make their essays work for them in that way.
Oh, great advice. Thanks, guys. What about how students spend their time? They only have a limited amount of time. Do they do extracurriculars? Do they take more classes? Do they, how do they decide what's the most important? Emily, you can go ahead and start.
I can take it. So when you're thinking about that, I think the biggest piece I would recommend is think about your goals, right? Think about what you want to do. Don't feel like, okay, I got to take this extra class because colleges think I should take this extra class, right? Nothing like that. I always encourage students, think about what your goals are, what you want to get out of your time. If you have an extracurricular you're really excited about and it's not academically focused, that's totally fine, right? Do things that bring you joy, right? We want to get to know you as when we're thinking about the application. So in your free time, right? Do things that you're excited about. I always, when I'm talking to students, we know you have a life outside of school, right? You have, interests and hobbies and things that aren't sitting in class. And so we want to get to know that aspect of you as well. And so throughout your time, right, think about things that you're excited about, things you want to pursue. Sometimes you just kind of fall into things and you realize this is great and you realize you're spending a lot of time on it. And that's awesome. So I think that some students might have one specific interest that they are doing a lot of, right? Maybe you're really interested in biology, you're doing biology extracurriculars, or you're spending more time taking those extra classes. And that's great. And there are students like that, but there are also students who, are kind of exploring, they're trying to figure out, they're taking that cooking class, they're taking, that biology class, they are, volunteering, they're doing a bunch of different things. And I think both those types of students are great. And, we see both of those types of students throughout application process as well. So when you think about that, think about what you want to do. And that's how I would say, kind of as you're guiding that, decision, if you want to get involved in some extracurriculars, do that. And, kind of find things that you're excited about and you really do genuinely enjoy outside of the classroom as well.
Evelise, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I think it's hard because the way you started your presentation was great. It's getting crazy out there. It's getting insanely competitive. There's no one formula anymore that exists in terms of like, if you do this number of extracurriculars, this volunteer opportunities, you're gonna get into whatever college you want to get into. That does not exist anymore. I think the way Emily sort of kind of phrased it was great. Find a balance. Don't drive yourselves crazy, because if you drive yourselves crazy, you're not gonna get in anywhere, because you're gonna sort of kind of like, you're gonna do too much, and then you're just sort of kind of you're gonna drop it all. Ultimately, like you're gonna find a balance. You're ultimately gonna find a college that's gonna work for you. It may not be the initial choice that you thought was the college of your dreams. The college you end up at might surprise you. It really does ultimately end up being the college you make out of it, and ends up being the experience you make out of it. Explore a bunch of different things. If you really don't know what you want to do in your deepest parts, your hearts of hearts, try a bunch of different things out. Because your options might surprise you, and that could end up really making a big decision and end up actually saving you a lot of time when you get to college. Like, I wish I had the options when Coastline was going. I was like, dang, I wish I had these things when I was back in New York. I might have saved me a lot of time and heartache when I got to undergrad. Like, my goodness.
So speaking of competitive, Evelise, you at Stony Brook, you have these direct admit medical and dental programs. And I looked at the stats, they're crazy. How do people get into a direct admit medical or dental program? What do they need to be doing like right now if that's their goal?
He needs to come out the womb having done every AP under the. No, I'm not even exact. There are, Felicia, there are some of the most highly accomplished students I've seen. The Scholars for Med BSMD program is one of our most competitive programs on campus. Because it's one of the few direct admit med programs in the nation. Like it's a scarily hot commodity right now. So having had students that have done and completed programs like the ones they have here definitely help, because it demonstrates to the admissions team at the honors colleges that the students are definitely ready for the rigors of medical school, and for the rigors of an honors program. But students that are applying to the Scholars for Med have had a 4.0 GPA for years, have had completed, they've completed every AP that they're running out of APs. It's scary. And are coming in, are coming in basically, if they're not coming in as like a sophomore with the amount of credits they've accrued in high school, are basically coming in as like having completed high school early. Those are our Scholars for Med BSMD kids. Our dental school is a little bit less competitive because dental school is not nearly as competitive as medical school, for obvious reasons, but still very competitive. So they're looking to expand the program overall, and they're looking to change sort of kind of the makeup of the student body. But right now it's a very competitive program as it stands.
Okay, and I know over at Johns Hopkins, you have a direct admit into Masters of Public Health. What kind of students are a good fit for that program?
Yeah, so we have our global health studies for kind of like that direct matriculation program. And so if you're interested in that, there's a couple different options of like kind of what that looks like. Some students will go into getting a master's public health, some will get a master's in like health economics, kind of depends what you're looking for. And so through that direct matriculation program, I think students who, if that's what you want to do, and that's something you really are interested in, if you think about things from like a different, more of a global perspective, that's definitely something that we think about a lot, because it is kind of focusing on that more like public health, global health. Not a lot of students will do these types of programs and then go into medical school. So if you're interested in that, it would be like a different route typically. So this would be, kind of thinking more about, different global health problems and those kind of pieces as well. So I think that there are a couple things like I think that could be definitely a good fit for students who are interested in that public health piece, and kind of looking at things from global perspectives. But yeah, so it's kind of up to you. It's pretty flexible in terms of that too, just in terms of that like direct matriculation program. So if you have any like questions about those specific programs, we're always happy to help and kind of give you those more details for that as well.
Okay, and we did have a question come through in the Q&A, and I'm not sure if either of you can answer it. They're asking about scholarships that are available for LPAC scores, ELPAC scores, CNOT applications. Do either of you have any expertise in that area?
So I don't have a whole lot of expertise. I know, so if we're thinking about like English language proficiency kind of course, like testing, right, and those kinds of things. So that'll depend, at least at Hopkins, on like your application specifically. And so those are all like individual. So I'm not too familiar with all of those pieces. And then I think the scholarships too, it kind of depends what you're looking for. So like like at Hopkins, if we offer merit-based scholarships, but those are not something that you have to apply for. So you don't have to worry about an application, right? But it depends on the school. It depends on, you know, what you're looking for. If you're looking for kind of that, you know, federal scholarships or those things as well. So I think that's gonna vary very like school by school and everything. But I'm a little less familiar with the scores and everything.
And Evelise, did you have any?
Same. I would have to kick that up to my associate dean in terms of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay, that's good. We do have another one on here. Is there a format for the essays, or is it your own writing style?
I want to say it's your own writing style. I think there's a format. There's a specific format. It's not so much more like your typical research or structured styled essay. It's a little bit more like a personal essay that you're like any junior, senior year English teacher could help you with. It's a little bit less formal in terms of like having, you know, a like thesis statement and a conclusion structure. It's a little bit less structured in that format, but it still kind of has to follow typical grammatical rules in that style. So, and doesn't have to be cited nearly as brutally. So typically a personal essay is a little bit looser, but you still want to kind of have a flow and a theme. So when Emily was mentioning, like, if you're talking all about the soccer game, the soccer game is your theme. But you sort of kind of have to tie into why the soccer game matters. So the soccer game is going to be your central focus, but you have to say like the soccer game matters because it really put my focus into athletic training, and here's why. So that's going to be what you're sort of kind of going to talk about, and you're going to bring that back and forth into your story. You're going to tie that in and weave that in. But you're not just going to talk about the soccer game. You got to sort of going to bring it into, you're going to talk about it here and there, but it's not all you're going to talk about. So it's a bit more of a balance. It's a bit more of a dance. It's not as rigid as your sort of kind of like your argumentative essays that you've sort of kind of did more of throughout your high school careers.
Good. Okay. Thank you. That helps a lot. We're running out of time here. So I do want to bring Hassan and Brian back on, and I want to ask a little wrap-up question to each of you, and then also remind everyone that we're going to be recording this and it will be sent out to everyone. So I guess my last question for each of you is, knowing what you know about college admissions now, what would you do differently to prepare if you were a high schooler? What would you do differently to get yourself ready? Evelise, why don't you go ahead and go first?
I think I would have managed my expectations a little bit better in terms of like I really, really thought I was going to get into all the Ivies that I applied to. I really thought that I was going to get all the way through pre-med. And I'm glad that other than that, I wouldn't change my experience for a thing, because it really did make me who I am today. And I'm forever grateful for it. But the experience itself, you know, getting through college was a grueling one. And as a first generation student, it was not easy. So and I hope I can sort of kind of make that difference moving forward. But I definitely would have probably tempered my expectations a little bit better.
Yeah.
I know now.
Yes. Emily, what about you?
Yeah, I think I would have chilled out a little bit. I think I thought that I had to have it all together. And I was actually undecided in college. And I think that like that was something I felt really nervous about. I felt like I really needed to figure it out. And I felt like, you know, I had to have it all put together when I got there. And that is simply not the case. So I think that that's something I would have, you know, relaxed a little bit on of being like, you know, it's okay that I don't know what I want to do or what I want to study. And that's totally fine. And I think, yeah, so I think that's what I would say.
Great. Hassan, how about you?
So for me, thinking back in high school, I'd still be a kid with not a whole lot of experience. So knowing all of this, I feel like I would need to be more ambitious and find more opportunities for myself, so I'd have something to write about. I mean, I was athletic and I did sports, but pursuing an internship or trying to get hands-on with something, I'd probably ask more questions back in high school.
Yeah, ask more questions. That's great. Okay. And Brian, what about you?
Well, I come from a much different generation. I don't even know, and I went to Indiana University, right? It's a great university, public university in Indiana. I don't even know that I wrote a college essay. And I think I had a 1200 on the SATs and I got in. I actually wish that I had taken the time way back then to really figure out more what I wanted to do and what I was interested in, because I ended up in a sales career for about 20 years selling television advertising time. And my great joke is that, you know, I spent 20 years subsidizing the downfall of humanity. And then I got into education and now I'm doing my penance, trying to make a difference in the lives of students who are on, you know, on here. And so I wish I discovered that a lot earlier. Now I ended up in a great position with a great organization, but you know what? And I would say to students, you know, you can kind of chill out. You don't have to have your path set. I'm on my 4th career. I worked for TV stations. I worked for and startups and marketing. I worked for a university. I ran the campus of a university. I ran a nonprofit, and now I'm the superintendent of an ROP. I mean, all completely different industries with different challenges, and so, you know, if I could rewind the clock, I probably would have done some more exploration and really figured out what I wanted to do, rather than, well, I just have to go to college, because that was the expectation, and so. Yeah, it's, you know, I ended up in a great place, but, you know, I think I might have been a little more focused early on.
Oh, well, thank you to each of you for sharing your personal experience. We are out of time, but if you do have more questions, we have a QR code up that will get you to our career specialists at many of your local high schools. So if you scan that, you can get in touch with them. And I want to thank all of you in the audience for joining us this evening. And of course, our panelists, thank you for taking time out of your schedules to be part of this. And for our seniors out there, good luck with those college admissions essays and on your entire applications. Have a great evening, everyone.
Good luck, guys.